Heartwarming twist, Billionaire discovers his unexpected maid and her twins begging. After 3 years, Jack Monroe had always mastered the art of success. As a billionaire entrepreneur in a picturesque suburb of Atlanta, he wore his wealth like a designer suit, polished, crafted, and perfectly tailored. But beneath that polished exterior, there was an invisible weight pressing against his chest, a burden of expectations and the isolating chasm his riches had created. On this ordinary Saturday afternoon, as he made his way to gather supplies for an extravagant charity event, the reality he deconstructed began to unravel. Turning a corner, Jack's gaze fell upon a haunting sight that gripped his heart. Emma, a woman he once employed as a maid 3 years ago, sat on the curb. Disheveled, her clothes frayed and unkempt, she held 2 twin boys on her lap, each of their tiny hands stretched out, palms upturned, begging for help. Shock rippled through him. His mind raced with memories of their coffee breaks filled with laughter and shared dreams, fueling a bond built on hard work and respect. He couldn't shake off the guilt flooding his conscience. What had happened to her vibrant spirit? Emma? He gasped, disbelief tightening around him like a vice. How could this have happened? The crushing weight of economic disparity yawned wider, dragging him toward the abyss of vulnerability he was desperate to avoid. Jack. Her voice was a mere whisper, tinged with confusion and despair. What are you doing here? Sensing the gravity of this reunion, Jack swallowed hard. I didn't know you were struggling. Can I help? But the words hung awkwardly between them, miscommunication dancing in the air, layering emotions both vulnerable and raw. The community had begun to stir with whispers about Jack's potential charitable intentions, providing him with a strange mix of admiration and backlash. His affluent friends questioned the wisdom of extending compassion to someone perceived as less than. Jack fought their judgment, but the doubts crept in a chilling comparison of success that made him question the worth of his accomplishments. Feeling the weight of the world upon his shoulders, Jack instinctively offered Emma a job, a step towards providing her and her boys financial stability. Yet, what developed was an unexpected whirlwind of emotions. Emma hesitated, overtaken by insecurities, uncertain of her worth against Jack's lavish lifestyle. Their shared history echoed painfully, amplifying the complexity of their new reality. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's intentions began to shift, but doubt loomed over him like dark storm clouds. As the community rallied around Emma, extending help and support, he was left grappling with his motivations. Was he doing this for her or for himself? The blurred lines of compassion and self-interest made his chest ache. Finally, at a community meeting bursting with energy, Jack stood to address the crowd. He could feel the weight of silent scrutiny, the collective breath catching in anticipation. But when he publicly acknowledged Emma's worth, the moment was rich with vulnerability. Jack sensed a crack forming in the societal facade he built. The air was thick with tension, both their futures dangled precariously above the turbulent waters of class struggles and human connection. As Jack faced Emma's gaze, questions lingered in the air. Could their lives, so drastically altered by circumstance, find a way to uplift one another? Hope shimmered on the horizon, but uncertainties gnawed at the edges. Was success merely about wealth, or was it about recognizing the dignity of another human being? And would they allow the fear of their wounds to separate them, or could they bridge the chasm that had divided them for so long? The sky hung heavy with an electric tension as Jack stepped down from the podium, his heart racing. He caught Emma's eyes again, both vulnerable and cautious. The murmurs in the room faded to a dull roar, with every gaze interested in the two of them. It was as if the world had narrowed to just the two of them, two lives intertwined by fate yet separated by circumstance. Jack's chest tightened. He wanted to reach out, to somehow close the gaping distance created over years filled with successes and failures. But in the middle of all that yearning, doubt caught his breath. What would he say? How could he convey the sincerity of his intentions without making her feel small? As those thoughts tossed in his mind, Emma shifted uncomfortably, looking at the ground. The soft breeze began to pick up, rustling leaves and carrying whispers of uncertainty. Jack stepped closer, cautiously. "Emma, I know this changes everything," he started, searching her face for any sign of hope. "I want to help you, for real this time. Not just as an employer. I see you. I remember who you are. You're more than what has happened. You're strong and you matter." She looked up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Jack, I feel so lost. I can't pretend to understand what you're going through, but I want to try," he said, his voice low. "I want to help you get back on your feet, and to show those boys that life can be different. Can we work together on this?" Emma hesitated. The weight of their past loomed large. Was she ready to rebuild in a world that once seemed so welcoming? Could she trust him again, this man who had been a symbol of both her aspirations and her shattered dreams? "Let us start small," he offered gently. "I can help with immediate needs, food, clothes, and a place to stay. We can figure out the rest together. We can be a team." The room was silent, as if even the air was holding its breath. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Emma's face. The decision weighed down like a lead blanket. What if this whole thing ends up too complicated? "Complicated is a part of life," Jack said, his tone firm yet warm. "But if you let fear make your choices for you, you'll never find the next step. We can take this one day at a time." Just then, the door swung open to the community center, letting in a wash of golden afternoon light. In that moment, hope discarded its heavy coat of doubt. Jack reached out a hand, palm up, offering her a lifeline, a choice. "Let us walk forward together. Please." She studied his face, searching for the truth behind his offer. Could she really trust him again? The moment felt weighted, pregnant with unspoken histories and future possibilities. Finally, Emma took a deep breath and pressed her hand into his. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental, thus beginning a journey neither of them could have imagined. As they stepped forward into that sunlight, the crowd erupted into murmurs of disbelief and admiration. Some whispered words of skepticism, while others cheered quietly, caught between disbelief and hope. That day, a bond was reforged, a bridge rebuilt over uncharted waters. But as they began to navigate their new reality, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that things were just beginning. How would the outside world perceive their evolving relationship? Would they survive the judgment of society? The uncertainty lingered, echoing in Jack's mind, pushing him to question everything they were about to dive into. They had crossed a threshold, but would it lead to liberation or heartache? With those thoughts echoing in his mind, Jack looked at Emma, who was nervously scanning the crowd. They had taken that critical first step, but the journey ahead promised to be filled with challenges and revelations. What other truths lay buried beneath the surface, threatening to rise again? The air felt lighter as Jack walked side by side with Emma, but his heart still thudded in his chest. Each step they took was a mix of hope and trepidation. The world outside the community center was full of noise, the vibrant chatter of families and children. Jack glanced at Emma, noting the soft determination on her face. Yet, he could see the flicker of vulnerability, as if she was just waiting for the ground to shift beneath her feet again. They walked past a small cafe, the aroma of freshly baked bread wafting into the air. Jack hesitated, wishing he could somehow share that moment with Emma, something as simple as a cup of coffee, a conversation that didn't belong to the past but rather set a foundation for the future. "Want to grab something to eat?" he asked. His voice was tentative, but a smile broke through Emma's apprehension. "I'd like that," she replied softly, her smile failing to reach her eyes fully. Their small moment seemed to hang in the air, delicate and fragile. As they entered the cafe, the chatter subsided for a brief moment. Patrons stole looks at them, curiosity and judgment mingling among the tables like an unwelcome guest. Jack felt a few eyes linger on Emma. It sent a surge of protectiveness coursing through him, a desire to shield her from the scrutiny he was all too familiar with. They chose a corner table, and as they settled in with their drinks, the tension gradually melted away. Jack leaned in, wanting to create a safe space. "You know, I appreciate you agreeing to this," he said. "It can't have been easy." Emma fidgeted with her cup, staring into its depths like it held the answers to all her questions. "It feels like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff just waiting to see if I'll fall or fly," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Jack watched her, soaking in the honesty. "What if I told you that flying is just as scary as falling? But it's worth the risk, right?" He could see the flicker of hope in her eyes start to ignite, even just a bit. She chuckled, a soft, vulnerable laugh that warmed their small table. "I guess I haven't thought about it that way." As their conversation continued, Jack found himself guiding her through the small steps covering immediate basics like shelter, food, and a steady job. With each word, he saw her confidence build, layer by layer. There was something lighter in her spirit as they spoke of goals, dreams, and the changes they wanted to see in their lives. The outside world faded away, leaving just the two of them focused on the path ahead. But as they grew more comfortable, the cafe door swung open with a crash, announcing a small group of people that Jack recognized instantly, his closest friends from high society. Their laughter echoed around the cafe as they walked in. It felt like a spotlight had suddenly turned on, illuminating Jack and Emma in an unapologetic glare of expectations and past connections. "Look who's here!" one of them called out, and Jack's heart sank. A mixture of excitement and concern rose in him as he spotted their curious glances shift over to Emma. "Jack!" Another friend chimed, a playful grin stretching across her face. "What are you doing with her?" The tone dripped with condescension. The world that had felt so promising seconds before now loomed dark again. Jack's mind raced, caught between his past connections and the present moment that was unfolding with Emma. As the laughter turned to hushed murmurs, Jack's gut twisted uneasy. How would he shield her from this? Would she see them as threats or simply reminders of a life that felt increasingly distant to her? As he looked back at Emma, her confidence faltering beneath the weight of their scrutiny, he realized their journey was set to face its first real test. Would they push through the doubt and judgment together, or would the past come crashing back into their lives? With the challenges mounting, Jack held Emma's gaze and a deep determination settled in his chest. They had shared something special, the first step, the spark of hope. But the road ahead was about to become a lot more complicated. Would they hold on to that spark, or would it be smothered by the very lives they had tried to leave behind? The laughter from Jack's friends felt like shards of glass falling around them. Emma shifted in her seat, her hands tightening around her cup as if it was the only thing anchoring her to the moment. Jack felt a pang of guilt deep in his chest. He wanted to protect her, but the eyes of his past were merciless. "Hey, everyone. This is Emma," he introduced her, forcing a smile, but it felt stiff, unnatural. Their gazes flitted from Jack to Emma, dissecting every part of her, as if she were a puzzle to solve. "Emma, huh?" one of the girls said, tilting her head with a condescending smirk. "Do we know her from somewhere?" "It's nice to meet you," Emma murmured, her voice barely piercing through the thick tension hanging in the air. Jack noticed her eyes dart away, searching for a way out as she tried to remain composed. Jack's friends crowded close, their amusement at his expense palpable. "What is she doing with you, Jack?" The playful tone slipped into something more probing. Jack felt his defenses rise. "They're just a group of friends from the community center," Emma injected, surprising Jack with her strength. "Jack has been helping me out. It's nice being around supportive people." The group exchanged glances, each person wearing expressions that told Jack they were not buying it. He could see Emma's anxiety blossoming like a dandelion cracking through concrete. It was becoming too much. Supportive? One of the guys laughed, his voice dripping with mockery. Do you mean you're his new enough? Jack's voice cut through the din, sharper than he intended. He felt Emma stiffen beside him. Jack, it was just a joke, another friend interjected, sensing the shift in mood. Yeah, real funny, Jack snapped, the frustration meaner than he meant it to be. Why don't we just go back to our coffee? Emma looked at him, a mixture of surprise and gratitude flickering across her face. In that moment, he knew he'd made the right choice, but the impact of his anger weighed heavily on him. He had promised to make this easier for her, and now it felt like he was dragging her into the storm. They all faded back slightly, pretending to engage with one another while keeping an eye on the spectacle at their table. Emma tightened her grip on her cup, her features visibly paler. Jack reached for her hand, squeezing it gently, wanting to offer strength, solidarity. Hey, he said softly, leaning close, I'm sorry about that. They didn't mean anything by it. She met his eyes, yet he could sense an invisible wall springing up between them. It's fine, really. It's just I thought maybe it could be different, she replied, her voice trailing off. A flicker of hurt in her gaze nearly shattered him. Jack drew a breath, his heart racing as he thought of how to reassure her. We can ignore them. We're on our own path now, he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. But the laughter from his friends didn't dissipate. Instead, they were gathering stories, ready to poke fun at Jack's fall from grace. The fear of judgment loomed large, but behind that fear, Jack felt determination. He couldn't let Emma be the collateral damage of his past. Let us get out of here. I want to show you something, he suddenly suggested, not waiting for season to settle. Emma blinked, caught off guard. What? You'll see, he replied, rising and motioning for her to follow. A flicker of curiosity crossed her face as she stood up. As they exited the cafe, the swirl of noise faded behind them. Emma hesitated at the threshold for a second, returning to steal one last glance at the people inside, who were still whispering. Without thinking, Jack entwined her fingers with his, leading her into the bustling street outside. The world felt enormous and promising, the clamor fading into the background. Okay, so what's this thing you want to show me? She asked, her voice tinged with laughter, yet Jack could sense a lingering uncertainty. I've got a hidden spot that's perfect for us, he smiled, trying to catch the sparkle that had dimmed in her eyes. But as they moved down the street, Jack's mind raced with the fitting turn their lives had taken. Would they truly find a refuge away from the prying eyes? Could they create their future amidst the jagged edges of their present? The road ahead glittered with unknowns, but one question hung rich in the air. Was he brave enough to carve out not just a place for them but a future together? Jack noticed how tightly Emma kept her fingers intertwined with his. It was a mix of trust and fear, and he wanted to steady her nerves with anything he could offer. The city buzzed around them, people rushing, cars honking, the aroma of street food filling the air. Yet, amidst that chaos, he felt they were in their little bubble, a realm that went beyond the judgmental eyes of his friends. He led her down a narrow alley, the noise of the main street drowning into a distant hum. The brick walls towered on either side, but between them was a small courtyard tucked behind a faded shop. In the center stood an old oak tree, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating a dappled pattern on the ground, almost like stars scattered on the earth. Wow, Emma breathed, looking around. I've never seen this place before. Jack smiled, his heart warming at her genuine delight. I found it last year when I needed to escape for a bit. It feels like a world away from everything. She stepped further into the courtyard, her uncertainty dissolving. The laughter she had held tightly faded, replaced by a cautious smile. Jack watched her absorb the beauty around them, and it reminded him of how something so simple could shift the atmosphere. What's your favorite thing about it? Emma asked, looking at him. It's peaceful, Jack said, leaning against the trunk of the oak tree. It makes me forget the noise and drama. And, it's where I come to think about what I want. Emma turned to him, curiosity sparkling in her blue eyes. And what do you want? Jack felt a knot tighten in his throat. He wanted to say everything. He wanted to tell her that he dreamed of sharing moments like this, but something held him back. I want to build a life that feels real. With people who care and who I can trust, he finally said, feeling the weight of those words. What if they don't understand? What if there are more judgments? Emma's voice trembled slightly. Then we'll show them, Jack replied, a fire igniting within him. I'm tired of hiding. If they can't accept who I am with you, then they don't matter. He stepped closer to her, the air between them thickening. Emma glanced down, fiddling with her necklace, her expression shifting as if she weighed something heavy. Jack wanted to pull her closer, to wipe away any lingering insecurities. Do you really mean that? She asked, meeting his gaze again. Are you willing to fight for this? Jack nodded, his heart racing with the intensity of the moment. I care about you, Emma. More than I thought possible. I want to fight for something real. For us. Her eyes softened, and for a heartbeat, Jack thought he saw the old spark return. But then, shadows flitted in her expression, like the dark clouds that occasionally covered the sun. I don't want to be the reason something breaks for you, she whispered, her voice barely reaching him. Before he could respond, a loud crash echoed from the street outside the alley, shattering their moment. Jack instinctively turned toward the sound, a knot of dread tightening at the back of his mind. The chaos between them suddenly felt like a storm returning, threatening to wash away their fragile hope. Let us go see what that was, Jack said, his heart pounding. He moved toward the exit of the courtyard, and Emma followed, but he could feel her hesitation. As they stepped back into the noise and movement of the street, Jack glanced back, catching a glimpse of the joy they'd shared moments ago. He hoped they could recapture that spark. But now, the future felt clouded with uncertainty. With each step forward into the crowd, Jack's thoughts raced. What awaited them beyond the chaos? Would their connection withstand the storm or would it fracture under the pressure? As they merged back into the bustling street, the promise of answers loomed, but so did the fear of breaking. Would they find the strength to face what was ahead together? The street seemed to pulse with energy, like a live wire buzzing beneath their feet. Jack took a deep breath, trying to clear his mind of the unease that lingered in the corners. As they stepped out of the alley, the vibrant aromas of food from nearby vendors collided with the sounds of laughter and chatter, saturating the air with life. Yet, the crash from moments before hung heavily over them. Emma's fingers were still clasped around his, but now there was an urgency in her grip. She was tense, scanning the crowd with wide, anxious eyes. Jack turned, trying to gauge the source of the noise, but the ebb and flow of the city swallowed it whole. Stay close, he whispered, wanting to shield her from any potential threat. Among the throngs of people, a commotion erupted a few feet away. A man shouted, his face red with frustration, while a woman beside him appeared flustered, clutching a grocery bag like it was her lifeline. Jack's instincts kicked in. Trouble had a way of finding him, and he didn't want to risk Emma being swept up in it. What if we just keep going? Emma suggested hesitantly, glancing at him with uncertainty. He felt her worry radiate off her, like a second skin. The last thing he wanted was for her to feel trapped or anxious. We'll be okay. Let us just check it out for a moment. I promise, if it gets too much, we'll step away. As they approached the scene, Jack could see part of the crowd had gathered, trying to discern what had happened. His heart raced not with fear for the commotion itself, but for his hope of keeping Emma at ease. There's always something wild happening here, Jack said, attempting to lighten the mood. At least it distracts from everything else. Emma managed a weak smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Jack wished he could take away her worries. He took a step closer to the crowd, curiosity bubbling inside him. A woman in a bright red jacket was shouting now, and it seemed the man was trying to explain his side of the story. Coffee's everywhere, I had 3. And you just walked right, the man exclaimed animatedly. Jack's gaze caught a glimpse of a few coffee cups strewn across the pavement, the paper lids crumpled and sticky. Emma leaned closer, tilting her head to get a better view. A moment later, he noticed her lips fluttering with surprise. He realized how engrossed she had become in the unfolding drama. See? Just a ridiculous mishap, Jack murmured, nudging her gently. Nothing to worry about. The immediate danger seemed to dissipate, but just as Jack began to relax, he sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The woman in red continued her tirade, drawing more attention, and Jack could feel an impatient energy building among the onlookers. Suddenly, a voice from the crowd called out, "Someone help her." It was a plea laced with urgency. Jack's heart dropped again. He turned to see Emma's eyes widen, fear now flickering through them. Did she think the noise was the beginning of something darker? Without thinking, Jack squeezed her hand tighter, ready to offer protection, to echo his promise. "It's okay, Emma. Let us step back." But before they could take a breath, a flash of movement shot past them. An elderly man had tripped over a discarded box, sending coffee flying everywhere. The people nearest him gasped, and Jack instinctively stepped into the fray, ready to assist. "Hey! You all right?" he called out, fear turning to instinct. Emma remained a step behind him, unsure but holding on. The man looked dazed, but when his eyes met Jack's, something stirred beneath the surface, an urgency, a story yet to unfold. "Yeah, just the coffee, but I think I need," he started, his voice fading with confusion. Before he could finish, Jack perceived a deeper need behind the spill, something more than just a mishap that revealed the man's inner struggle. Would their day end with reaching out to someone seemingly lost in a sea of chaos? And could it further bind him and Emma together, or drive them apart in the face of unforeseen reality? As the street buzzed around them, Jack felt the weight of their connection shifting, just like the falling coffee. He turned to Emma, whose expression whispered questions he wasn't ready to answer. "Let us see where this leads us," he suggested, not fully knowing what that meant. But deep down, he felt the pull of fate drawing them forward into the unknown. What if this moment was the turning point they both needed? Would it bring them closer, or would it push them even further apart than before? The elderly man blinked, recovering from his fumble as onlookers shifted their focus. Jack crouched beside him, concern etched on his features. "You sure you're okay?" he asked, noting the tremor in the man's hands. I just lost my balance," he murmured, a hint of embarrassment coloring his cheeks. "My wife, she's waiting for me. I just wanted to grab some coffee for us." He motioned weakly to the scattered cups. Jack glanced up at Emma, her worry painted with compassion. She stepped closer, sharing the moment with him. "Let me help you," she said softly, reaching for a paper cup that lay on its side among the debris. "We can clean this up." The man's eyes widened in gratitude. "Thank you." There was a softness to his voice, a vulnerability that cut through the chaos of the street. While Emma knelt beside the man, gathering fallen cups, Jack felt a surge of warmth. Watching her, he realized how this simple act of kindness reminded him of their own struggles. They had each faced hurdles, but somehow, being here, together, seemed to illuminate a different path. As they cleaned, the crowd began to shift. Conversations resumed, casual laughter spilling into the air. The tension that had filled the atmosphere lifted, lightening Jack's heart. He could see Emma smiling down at the man, reassuring him with every little gesture. "You know," Emma said, making eye contact with Jack across the cluttered pavement. "Sometimes it's just a small thing that makes a difference." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of her words. What if their small act of kindness today led to something bigger within themselves? Moments later, the elderly man stood, his hands still trembling but eyes now filled with relief. "I can't thank you enough," he said, his voice steadier. "You've reminded me of the good in people. My wife, she's been struggling with her health lately." He paused, collecting his thoughts. It's tough, but she loves her coffee. This small thing seemed like a big one for me today. The acknowledgement hung between them, a truth they could all feel. Jack felt the knot of tension within him loosen, replaced by something softer. An understanding. An openness. Emma's expression shifted, a mix of sadness and hope flickering across her features. Is there anything we can do to help? She asked, the sincerity evident in her tone. The man hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing his face before he finally nodded. It means a lot just to talk, but it's more than that. I'm afraid of losing her. It feels like the world is spinning too fast. Jack glanced at Emma, the weight of the situation making it impossible to ignore. You're not alone, he said, instinctively stepping forward. We're all here together. You look after her, and let us know if you need someone to lean on. For the first time, Jack saw the faintest hint of a smile return to the man's lips. It passed through the group like a ripple, reminding them all that connection could thrive amid chaos. The crowd began to disperse, conversations shifting to less pressing matters. Jack felt the connection between him and Emma strengthen, their shared experience weaving a bond deeper than either of them might have expected. Let us keep walking, Emma suggested, glancing down the street. The day still held endless possibilities. As they started to drift away from the scene, a sense of renewal filled the air. Jack recognized that they hadn't just cleaned up spilled coffee. They felt the pulse of humanity beating together, grounding them in a world that too often felt chaotic. But as they strolled further, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter had sparked something more significant. Do you think we'll see him again? He asked, feeling oddly invested in the man's story. I hope so, Emma replied softly, squeezing his hand gently. It's funny how one moment can change everything. What if he's meant to be a part of our journey now? Jack's heart raced as he considered the possibilities. What if this was just the start of something bigger? Just as they turned down a quieter street, Emma paused, the light in her eyes shimmering with energy. Jack, I have this sense that we're on the brink of discovering something amazing together. Don't you feel it? He nodded, feeling the intensity of her words wrap around him. The day was far from over, and the current sweeping them forward felt unstoppable. What was waiting just beyond this path? Would they chase it down, or would it find them first? As they wandered down the quieter street, the afternoon sun painted the sidewalk with warm hues. Laughter echoed from a nearby park, children's voices ringing joyously as they played. Jack took a deep breath, the air filled with the scent of fresh blossoms mingling with distant food vendors. Do you think it's true? Emma asked suddenly, pulling him from his thoughts. That moments can really change the direction of our lives. Jack thought about the elderly man and his ailing wife, the way they had connected. Yeah, I think so. Sometimes a split-second choice leads to something that feels monumental. Emma smiled, one that reached her eyes, igniting a spark of warmth inside him. Like today, for instance. I can't stop thinking about how all those little moments build up. They turned onto a small side street, the world around them growing quieter. Jack felt like they were in their own bubble, slightly removed from the hustle just a few blocks away. He stopped for a moment to watch a couple stroll hand in hand, their laughter mingling with the soft rustling of the leaves in the breeze. Do you remember the first time we met? He asked, looking over at Emma with a hint of a grin. Her laughter was like a soft melody. Of course. You spilled coffee all over my book at that cafe. I thought you'd never live it down. Jack chuckled, shaking his head. I thought you were going to throw the book at me. But you just laughed, like you always do. Emma's expression became contemplative, as though she was searching her heart. You know, sometimes I wonder if we're meant to cross paths with certain people for a reason. Like we each carry pieces of a puzzle that fit together. Maybe that's what today was about, Jack mused, the weight of her words settling in. Maybe the elderly man's story fits into ours somehow. The deeper they went into their conversation, the more Jack felt himself peeling back layers. His recollections of struggles and triumphs danced just below the surface, waiting to emerge. Emma's expression shifted to something more serious. What if we can help him, or anyone else we meet along the way? What if we could make an impact, even if it's just small? His heart raced. You're right. We've been through so much ourselves, it only makes sense to reach out when we can. She grabbed his hand. Jack, let us not wait until it's too late. Let us create moments like the one we shared today. Let us chase every opportunity. A rush of excitement coursed through him. They didn't just want to exist, they wanted to live with purpose. But beneath that excitement lay a flicker of uncertainty. What if they opened themselves up only to face heartbreak? Okay, he finally replied, determination in his voice. Let us make a plan, together. Suddenly, Emma's face shifted, her eyes darting to the end of the street. A distraught woman was crouched down beside a stroller, her hair in disarray, tears streaming down her cheeks. Two children peeked out from behind her, their innocent faces reflecting confusion and fear. Jack's heart sank. What do you think is happening? I don't know, but we should check, Emma replied, her grip tightening around his hand as they approached the scene. As they drew closer, Jack noticed the ragged clothes on the woman, the way she clutched one of the children tightly. The air, once filled with warmth and laughter, felt heavy with uncertainty. Excuse me, Emma said softly, kneeling down to meet the woman's gaze. Are you okay? Can we help? But just then, the woman looked up, her eyes flashing with a mix of desperation and fear. What would they find out as they stepped into this poignant moment? Would they be able to reach this woman and her children, or would it lead to an unexpected twist that would change everything, challenging their resolve? The woman's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and the fear etched on her face pulled at Jack's heartstrings. He crouched down beside Emma, trying to convey an air of calm. What's wrong? He asked gently, his voice a soft anchor amidst her turmoil. With a shaky breath, the woman squeezed the child in her arms and looked down as if searching for the right words. I lost my job, she finally whispered, her voice trembling. I can't pay for food or anything right now. Jack's chest tightened. He exchanged a worried glance with Emma, who was still kneeling, her expression full of empathy. We can help you, Emma said reassuringly. What do you need? The woman wiped her face with the back of her hand. I don't know, I just need something for my kids. Her voice broke as she gestured toward the two small kids, who clutched each other, wide-eyed and silent, taking in the scene. Jack felt a swell of urgency within him. He couldn't let fear paralyze them. What are their names? He asked, looking at the children. Lily and Max, she replied, her gaze softening as she looked at her children. They just need snacks, and some water. Emma nodded, her determination unwavering. We can get that for you. There's a shop just a few blocks away. The woman looked at them, hesitation flickering in her eyes. You would do that for us? Of course, Jack said, a warmth spreading through him. Right, Emma? Together, we can make this better. Emma stood to her feet, holding out her hand to the woman. Let us go. We'll figure this out together. Taking a deep breath, the woman grasped Emma's hand and stood. Jack felt a swell of pride for Emma's kindness. They had stepped into something profound, and each moment felt even more vital than the last. As they began to walk, the air was thick with an unspoken promise, a pact to reach out and make a difference when the world felt heavy. Jack felt like a weight had been lifted, they weren't just bystanders anymore. Do you need anything else? Emma asked, glancing back at the woman, who was now walking closely with them. The woman hesitated again. I might need help finding a new job. I don't know what to do anymore. Her voice cracked, but there was a hint of hope in her eyes too. Jack felt his heart quicken. This was bigger than snacks or water. We'll help you with that, too. We can look together, he proposed, feeling an unexpected rush of responsibility. As they reached the store, Jack sensed the atmosphere shifting. Emma took charge, grabbing snacks and drinks for the kids. Meanwhile, Jack felt a sense of urgency to think beyond the immediate needs. Could they really do more? Once they had what they needed, Emma turned to the woman. Here you go. And can we get your contact information? We want to help. Maybe we can look into job openings together. Tears of relief filled the woman's eyes. You mean it? I can't believe you're doing this for me. I didn't think anyone would care. It's not about the care, it's about connection, Jack replied, your words spoken from a rising passion deep within. We want you to know you're not alone in this. As they walked back, he felt a stirring excitement mixed with apprehension. Had they just scratched the surface of something monumental? The woman looked at Emma and then at Jack, her gratitude palpable. Thank you for everything. But as they approached the corner where they had first seen her, uncertainty and a shadow of the previous desperation began to settle back on her brow. I just hope I can find a way to support them. I'm scared. Jack felt an urge to say something, to encourage her, but suddenly, from the shadows, a figure emerged. A tall man with an imposing presence walked toward them, his eyes locked onto the woman. Rebecca. He called out, his voice harsh and authoritative. What are you doing here? The air went still. Jack and Emma exchanged perplexed glances as the woman stiffened, her anxiety amplifying. Who was this man, and what would he do next? The air thickened with tension as the man approached, his posture radiating authority. Jack stood protectively in front of Emma and the children, heart pounding, anxious to shield them from whatever storm was brewing. Is this your husband? Jack asked, voice steady amidst the uncertainty, eyes narrowing at the man who radiated intimidation. He could feel Emma beside him, her grip on his arm tightening, a silent plea to be cautious. No. He not, Rebecca's voice trembled, glancing worriedly at the children. Please, just give me a moment. The man's gaze hardened, a predatory glint in his eyes. You're supposed to be at home. What are you doing out here? We agreed it was best for you to stay away from strangers. Strangers? Jack interjected, his voice rising with indignation. These are not just strangers. We're trying to help her. Emma stepped forward, her voice firm and composed. Whatever your relationship is, this is not how you treat someone who is struggling. She deserves kindness, not condescension. Rebecca's shoulders slumped, fear overtaking her. Jack could see uncertainty twist in her eyes, she was caught in a tug-of-war between empathy and fear. I just want to care for my children, she whispered, glancing back at the man who had become a shadow looming over her. Care. He laughed harshly, pointing a finger. You haven't shown them care. You've left them vulnerable. You're a mess. Jack felt a spark ignite inside him, a mix of anger and determination. She's trying her best. You don't get to belittle anyone when they are down. No one deserves that. Rebecca's gaze flicked back and forth, caught between the two worlds, a protective instinct for her children fighting against the fear of this man. You think you know better than me, huh? He barked, voice dripping with scorn. I think, Jack replied, voice calm but resolute, that no one should be treated this way, especially not a mother. You might think you've got power, but look at her. She's fighting to keep her kids safe, and that's what matters. The man's eyes darted, seething. You don't know the first thing about her. You're just some guy playing hero. Jack felt a calmness settle in him. Maybe, but that doesn't make your behavior right. He turned to Rebecca, meeting her eyes, grounding her with a gentle strength. You are not alone anymore. We're here with you. That's what community does. Emma stepped beside Jack. We can help you together, Rebecca. This man doesn't get to control your life, you have a say in your future. Rebecca's features softened, tears welling up again, but this time they spoke of strength, not just fear. The man with the harsh voice stepped back slightly, confusion flashing across his face. Whatever, he spat, finally backing away, the altercation dwindling. "You're making a mistake." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving a palpable silence in his wake. Jack exhaled, heart racing with the rush of adrenaline. He looked at Rebecca, who appeared lost but held a flicker of hope. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, wiping away her tears, strength emerging where despair had lingered. "Thank you," she whispered, voice breaking in gratitude. "I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up for myself." "Let us focus on the next steps," Emma urged gently, looking at both Jack and Rebecca. "We'll figure out what you need." Jack felt a wave of connection surge between the three of them. "We've got your back, Rebecca. No more hiding. Can we plan the next steps together?" As they began walking forward, he felt the genre of possibility wrapping around them. The spark that had ignited earlier was now a warm flame, they were creating waves of change together. Each step they took was filled with renewed energy. The park nearby buzzed with life, laughter ringing loudly, filling the air around them. "You're not just a mother in need," Emma spoke, her voice steadying, conviction lifting every word. "You're someone who matters, who deserves support. We can help you find work, and together we can create a brighter path for your kids." Jack watched Rebecca's face transform. She was finding her strength, speaking for the first time, rising from the ashes of that man's harsh words. "I had lost hope. Thank you for showing me that it's okay to reach out," she said, eyes shining with nascent resilience. "Let us take these steps together." Jack felt a warmth swell in his chest, a sense of purpose as they moved forward into the world around them. Their small actions were becoming ripples of kindness, each interaction blossomed into infinite connections. As they finally neared the community center, excitement coursed through Jack. "Let us make changes together. We're not just helping you, we're creating a community." Rebecca looked at him, and for the first time, calm washed over her features. "I want to believe in that." Everything had shifted. The connection between them felt almost tangible now, and Jack realized what had begun as a series of small gestures had blossomed into something life-changing. "Let us make a difference," Jack declared, hand in hand with Emma, the trio building a bridge over the turmoil of their pasts. As the sun began to set, the golden light enveloped them, casting long shadows behind. In that moment, they understood together, they were strong enough to face anything. With a renewed spirit, they stood poised at the edge of a journey only beginning. They were paving a way not just for themselves but for anyone lost in the shadows. A story that would echo far beyond today, a legacy of compassion, strength, and the unwavering pursuit of hope. And as they looked forward into the endless possibilities, Jack felt a spark ignite once again. This was just the beginning, and they would not rest until they gathered everyone, shining their light throughout the darkest corners. Now, the challenge was clear: would they fight not only for their journey but also for those yet to join them on this path of transformation? You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to be part of our growing family. Hit that bell for all notifications so you won't miss what comes next. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and share your thoughts in the comments about this heartwarming journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to be inspired by the power of compassion and the strength of community. Let us build this together.